Thank you so much for joining me. Basically, I just wanted to go through a few questions. You know, the world's kind of going through a lot right now. So I thought this would be a great way for us to kind of inform everyone of basically what your knowledge is and just kind of update everybody on what's going on. So I thought we can just go ahead and dive right in. So, first things first, tell us about yourself and your personal and professional experience with COVID.
Yes, so I am Dr. Nicole Swiner. I am a full-time family physician, family doc, and that means I take care of the whole family from start to finish and in between. And I co-own Durham Family Medicine with my partner, and we have some providers in the Durham area. So I always say, if you're looking for primary care, please give us a shout on Broad Street. Yeah. That's right. So we take care of a little bit of everything. So when patients come in that are sick, or patients are coming in for their preventative care, or they want to talk about vaccines or staying healthy, that's what we do. We talk about mental health, women's health, all that good stuff. So clearly when COVID hit, you know, I guess number one, as a business, of course, we had to shuffle and adjust and pivot and figure out how to take the best care of our staff, our providers, protect us from getting ill, and still be available to our patients. So we did a lot with like telemedicine, telehealth, doing Zoom visits and phone calls. Right, when it wasn't safe or patients weren't very comfortable coming into the building. And then personally, of course, trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the best PPE for us to wear and do? Am I protecting myself well so that I don't bring anything home to my family? And so it became very, very stressful, you know, because we're all dealing with COVID, and having to then think about how to both prevent our patients from getting it and then treat them if they did get it, including ourselves, you know, became a really stressful kind of situation. So you know, we're all going through it.
Right, exactly. And honestly, I'm really glad that you kind of expressed like how in the office and how at the site, how the process actually goes. So it's just like the outside and the patient side can actually get a better understanding as well. And I also understand that you and your family had a COVID scare as well. What was your thought process about that?
It was very scary. So, you know, from March when this thing first hit globally, having to make those adjustments at work, having then to make those adjustments at home so that I didn't bring anything home, you know, I was like being the strictest that I could be. So I was wearing the N95 at work, sometimes the facial shield. Anytime I went out and was exposed to a potential person with COVID, I would dress in the gown and goggles and everything. Coming home, I would strip down at the door. You know, we laugh about it. You know, that mom comes home and strips naked at the front door, and that's just what I do. You know, take off all the
do, right?
So I'm like, you know, with the kids being in virtual school and having Zoom, like turn the cameras off, like make sure the cameras are off, because mommy's running. So what I'll do is I'll stop at the door, I'll sanitize, I'll undress, grab my clothes and run upstairs before I touch anybody, and before hopefully exposing myself to the world. But going upstairs and then jumping straight in the shower, throwing the clothes in the laundry, like we were strict. And there were even some weeks, you know, if I had been in the clinic for a couple of weeks in a row without having days off, you know, my husband and I, because he's high risk, you know, we were very diligent about making sure the house was as sanitized as possible. We bought one of those UV guns. You know, sometimes we wouldn't want to be too close or touch too much, because who knows what I might be carrying from work. So then I say all that to say, me of all people, although of course I've been exposed to patients potentially in clinic this whole time, in December, right before Christmas, I've been doing routine testing this whole time. So every 2 weeks I would, you know, do the test up the nose, the PCR test. A couple of times I'd also done the blood work for antibodies just as a precaution.
Right.
And my family have been tested a couple of times too, just as a precaution, you know, because you never know. And that entire time I was negative, you know, no sign of illness, no symptoms, negative test. But that one time in December, it popped up positive. And it was crazy. You know, I was at home when I looked at the results. You know, I thought back to Thanksgiving. You know, we didn't go anywhere. We were here. The next day, we got together with our what we like to call the quarantine or the pandemic pod. The same people we've been hanging out with since March. Everybody else was good, no symptoms. But long story short, you know, I'm actually in the room where I spent 10 days, just kind of staying away from my family, trying not to spread anything. And then just wondering, you know, who could I've gotten this from? Where did I get it? Am I going to have symptoms? You know, I feel good now, but does that mean tomorrow am I going to get sick? What's my family going to do if I get sick? Is my family going to get sick? You know, so all these things, along with being, you know, the mental stress of being cooped up by yourself, was very, very strange. And so thank God, you know, I never had symptoms. My family tested negative twice. I tested negative 3 times after that. Had antibodies. They also were negative. So I'm suspicious as to whether it was a false positive test, which is very rare with the PCR. But I'm glad that, like, I wouldn't have changed anything about, you know, having quarantined for 10 to 14 days, because you know, you want to do the best you can to not spread disease, and you never know. So, you know, here we are now.
Handled it the best way possible, and the fact that you knew what to do. You were like, "Oh, let's go, boom, boom, boom," and that's honestly the best.
Shut it down.
Yeah, and then also, so you personally decided to get the vaccine. So what led you to that decision? Granted, I understand you had that scare, but what else went through your head to kind of navigate to, yes, I'm going to get the vaccine?
Yeah, even before that happened, I had my reservations. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I, you know, had some questions. I like to say, I was, you know, I have questions. When it came out, I was like, who, what, when, where, how long, you know? Thankfully, I have a lot of other smart people much smarter than me about that in research that I can reach out to. And so I reached out. And I said, hey, you know, what can y'all tell me about it? Tell me what you think. Are you going to take it? And I had educated conversations about it. I also was able to see a number of my colleagues both volunteer for studies, particularly Black female providers that volunteer for studies, that were reporting back, that were saying that they were well, and they were optimistic about things. So I was able to kind of watch and observe and do my own research for a while before even having access to the vaccine, because, you know, the vaccine didn't come out until actually that same week I tested positive. The vaccine hit New York, and then it made its way to North Carolina. So during that same time, I was now having these internal conversations with myself, saying, okay, well, are you going to take it? Like, you know, how do you feel about it? And ultimately what I decided was, you know, initially when I was talking to people about it, I was saying, well, maybe I'll wait until the spring. You know, it's probably going to be when our clinic would have access to it. You know, thankfully I'm not, you know, I'm not diabetic. I don't have some immunocompromising type of disorder, so I can wait. I'm healthy. But then as it got closer, we actually did, you know, the email started coming in and saying, hey, for healthcare workers, you are eligible. Do you want it? I started thinking about my family. I started thinking about my patients. You know, I'm going to continue seeing patients throughout this pandemic. It's the safest option for both myself and the people around me to just go ahead and do it. And with Pfizer and Moderna having had their research and their shots out now for a couple of months, we do have a good amount of data. And we are getting more and more, particularly people of color, we're getting more and more data on that population, on our population, to say it's okay, the results are looking good, the side effects are very minimal, and it is very effective. So yesterday, I went ahead and bit the bullet and got the Pfizer dose #1. And I'm still here. I'm still breathing.
That's great. Honestly, I wanted, since you brought that up, so what were your symptoms like? Like, what was that process after?
Yes. So yesterday, 6:30 in the morning, went to one of our local hospitals and was on, you know, pre-registered. So for a lot of this stuff, you do have to pre-register and get on the wait list, and they need to know, the state needs to know all your information because they want to keep in touch with you. So showed up, you know, a very short line, was there, went into the room where a nurse educated me on the vaccine and how it works. And then, of course, had to tell me about potential side effects that I'd already heard about and read about prior to that. But I had to consent and say, yes, I still want this. Sat me down and just as quick as could be, did a very quick intramuscular, right here in the deltoid, the shoulder muscle shot. I shared my picture on social media, of course, because if you didn't take a picture, it didn't happen. And you know, we want, particularly in the medical field, we want to continue showing patients and lead by example. We want to be good role models. So I wanted to show you, you know, hey guys, I'm practicing what I preach. I'm here doing it, so we can educate everybody. But you know, so I, just to kind of get ahead of it, because I did hear about some of my colleagues having some arm soreness or feeling kind of feverish after I did take some Tylenol prior to going. And I chose to do Tylenol instead of ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is usually like my drug of choice when it comes to like you know, feeling feverish or achy or whatever. But I chose Tylenol because they're, particularly in the pediatric population, there's some question as to whether taking ibuprofen could actually get in the way of the vaccine's work. So I chose Tylenol just to kind of get ahead of it. I ate something, so I didn't have an empty stomach. And once you got the shot, you were then told to sit in a different room called the observation room for 15 minutes, because they wanted to make sure you didn't have fever, chills, nausea, vomiting, allergic reactions. They wanted to watch you for a little bit. So I went into a room, took my phone, and was kind of looking through things like, you know, looking through social media and all that while I was waiting for 15 minutes. Felt great. No symptoms, came home and worked out. I worked out with my trainer. And, you know, told her, hey, I just got the vaccine. She was like, okay, let's do arms. And I was like, well, are you sure? Because I just got it in my arm. She was like, nope, we're going to work that medicine in. We're going to work that vaccine. Who knows whether that helped? You know, moving the limb around, you know, may have made a difference. And then later in the day, so I took that Tylenol right before I got the shot, exercise and just kind of move my muscles around. And then maybe by the evening, I did have a little bit more soreness, no redness, no swelling, no warmth. But, you know, my husband asked me at the dinner table, he's like, you feel okay? And I was like, yeah, but I could tell like past the 90-degree angle, I was like, ooh, that is kind of sore, right? So took another dose of Tylenol with dinner and woke up this morning and it feels 100% great.
That's great to hear, honestly. I'm actually excited to hear your experience. I have not yet had mine yet. So hearing your experience, especially like throughout the whole day, is actually really great to hear. And I'm pretty sure it'll be great for the viewers as well. I do want to know, like, kind of dabble into the clinical trials. I want to know your thoughts on what you believe or why you believe clinical trials are still important, especially for minorities.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, you know, Pfizer and Moderna are out. AstraZeneca's coming out, and there's some other research companies that are working on getting their version of the vaccine out. I think it's still important, particularly in the minority population, because a lot of those studies are still needing more people of color so that we can report on how our RNA and DNA react to the shot. You know, we are different. You know, it depends on where you're born and what, you know, who's in your bloodline and all your genetic makeup can affect how you respond to different things. The good news is some of these studies that have already been done, even though they've had a smaller amount of what we would ideally want for the people of color population, have shown really, really good data, really good results, shown that there's no difference between the way that we respond, the side effects that we have, you know, versus the general population. But it's still really good to know. So I know a lot of these studies, I know particularly the ones that Research is helping to recruit for, want to get up to, you know, at least 35-37% of their whole number of people involved. They want to at least have about 35-37% of those folks being people of color, so we can actually reflect what the world looks like, what the US looks like. So that is helpful. It's also helpful so that we can talk to our patients of color and say, hey, in people of color, this is what this thing does, and this is what you can expect, and this is why you should be encouraged to take the vaccine.
Okay. And then, so when it comes to the vaccine, so we have Pfizer and Moderna. What would you say are the benefits for both? Exactly.
Yeah. So it's both of those, either one is supposed to be at least 95% effective, if not more, for both preventing getting sick and preventing having symptoms, even if you do catch coronavirus. There's also some thought that even if you do get coronavirus and you don't have symptoms, there's this concern about, well, can I still pass it on to people around me? And there's this thought, or I think it's further being confirmed, that there's also some benefit to you not passing it on to others, right? So I mentioned taking a shot both for me and my family and people around me. Not only do I hope that it'll be 95, 97% effective for preventing me from getting sick, but even if I'm asymptomatic and I carry it on me, I'm also hopeful that I'll have less risk of transmission to others. So those are really, really good reasons for going ahead and getting the shot.
So what would you say to people who are concerned about it being rushed? Like, there's a lot of comments about, oh, it's being rushed. Like, what do you think, or what would you say to that audience?
And I thought so too. I was nervous, listening to Dr. Fauci and all the researchers talk about how quickly this thing was going to happen, when generally it takes years for a vaccine to occur. But the way that it was explained to me, straight from the horse's mouth, like I said, I have friends that work in research that are developing these vaccines particularly. They said, thinking about it like this. Okay, so we have all of our staff, working on different things, different medications, different vaccines. Everybody's on a different project. But when this pandemic hit, because it was so, massive, what we did, we said all hands on deck. So everybody working over here with Viagra, everybody over here working with Protonics, or working on these different things. We shifted everybody's attention, and now we have everybody working on it. When you have everybody working on it, things can get done more quickly, right? You can also have more resources and more money going to this one thing. They said, forget about this other thing. These other things can wait if they're not emergent. Put all the resources targeted right here. And so that's why things got done more quickly. Now, does that mean that steps were skipped? Absolutely not, because the FDA has their phases that all the vaccines have to go through, and they all have to be approved in the same way. It just happened, it was able to be, they were more efficient. They were able to get it done faster, but they did not skip any steps. So I trust that the FDA did what they were supposed to do in terms of going through the phases of approval.
Okay. So kind of going back to when you were talking about the side effects. So we know that there's really, tired, you may be a little feverish, but have you heard of any long-term side effects or anything like that?
No, I have not. Yeah, thankfully, no. So, with either Pfizer or the Moderna shot, there are 2 doses. And I've been talking and looking at my colleagues that have gone through the second doses of both and all of that. It does seem that it's possible that with the second dose, you'll feel you have more of a likelihood of having some of those side effects. But, understand that means that your immune system is working. Your immune system is actually recognizing it, fighting it off. And as your immune system fights, you will have, when it comes to flu or cold or pneumonia or whatever, when your immune system is fighting is when you'll have the fever and the symptoms and the feelings of whatever. So I do expect potentially with the second dose to have some of that. But I have not heard of any I've not heard of that lasting longer than 3 to 4 days, if you do. And not everybody has had any problems. So I don't anticipate having a problem. I'm going to take my Tylenol again since it worked well this time. And I'm just going to kind of monitor and see how I feel. But I've not heard anywhere that there were any long-term effects.
Okay. And that's really great to hear for sure. And so my next question would be, what about children and pregnant women? Like, are they able to take the vaccine, or how does that work for them?
Right. So the shot as of right now is only approved for people 16 and above.
Okay.
So there's no recommendation to vaccinate anyone younger than 16 for either vaccine. There's also not an official recommendation to vaccinate pregnant women, although most medical organizations that take care of pregnant women do encourage pregnant women to go ahead and do it.
Okay.
And of course have a conversation with their doctor one-on-one, assess their risks and their allergies and all that. But for the most part, most medical organizations that take care or deal with pregnant women are saying, go ahead and discuss that, and they are encouraging those women to go ahead and get the vaccine.
Okay. So what if someone, I know there's a lot of people who are out there like, well, I got vaccinated, so that means I don't have to wear a mask. What do you say to that?
Absolutely not. You're not off the hook.
Right.
Not yet. Not yet. So we still have to continue wearing the mask because unfortunately you still can get sick, or you still can contract coronavirus, and you still potentially could pass it on, even though you are protected.
Right.
And you may not feel the symptoms, or you have very mild symptoms, you still are at risk for passing it on to someone else. So yes, continue to wear your mask. And I will continue to wear my mask.
That's good to hear. And also, hopefully, for those of you guys who are listening, wear your mask, because honestly, I feel like everyone just protecting yourself. And also, sidebar, so the people who are wearing masks who've been vaccinated, so it's just like, I guess my question is, like how you said when you were wearing your protective mask when you got that COVID scare, does it matter what mask you wear, or is it just as long as you're just protecting yourself, generally speaking?
Good question. So the type of mask matters for the environment that you're in. So when I go to the store, go outside, I wear usually a regular surgical mask. So you can buy on Amazon, you can buy, a regular surgical mask. It looks, kind of pleated, like you would imagine someone wearing it in the hospital in the operating room. If I'm going to work and I'm going to be exposed to patients, and patients could potentially have COVID, then I wear an N95, which is like the cup or the duck. So I wear a higher level mask when I'm in a higher level environment. And certainly if you have access to N95s, you can wear them outside into the grocery store too. But if you're in a higher level environment or around someone that's been sick or could be sick, I would use the N95s. I generally shy away from any cloth because you just don't know how strong the cloth is, and how what ply, will it really protect things from entering your nose and your mouth. So I tend to say don't use cloth, but if you are going to use any kind of cloth mask, make sure you have a filter. And actually I'm in my bedroom, I thought I had a filter nearby, but you can buy these white square filters that you can insert, or you can put on your nose and mouth and then put your cloth mask over if you do want to do cloth. But really, to be honest, I think going on Amazon and getting a surgical mask and a box of surgical masks for your family is probably the best bet.
I agree. And Dr. Swiner, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know I see that you're in your room and everything, but I do want to appreciate your time and just providing this valuable information. And I think it's very beneficial. So
you are welcome.
Thank you so much.
Follow the 3 W's. Wear your mask, wait at least 6 feet, and wash those hands. You got to keep doing it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.